John had always craved solitude. He was a man who found comfort not in the clamor of cities, but in the whisper of the wind through pine trees. That's why he built his cabin, a small, sturdy structure of hand-hewn logs deep within the heart of the sprawling national forest. His nearest neighbor was a day's hike away, and that suited him just fine. His days were a peaceful rhythm of chopping wood, tending his small garden, and reading by the glow of a kerosene lamp. The forest was his companion, its sounds a familiar symphony, the hoot of an owl, the rustle of unseen creatures, the gentle gurgle of a nearby stream. He was content, or so he thought, in his self-imposed isolation. One evening, as a storm raged outside, lashing rain against his window panes, John heard a sound that didn't belong to the forest's usual orchestra. It was a high-pitched, mournful cry, barely audible over the howl of the wind. At first, he dismissed it. A fox, perhaps, a lost fawn. But the sound persisted, a desperate, wailing plea that tugged at something deep within him. Curiosity, mixed with a flicker of concern, finally got the better of him. Grabbing his heavy flashlight and pulling on his boots, he unlatched the heavy oak door and peered into the tempestuous night. The beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating the rain-soaked porch. And there, huddled against the rough-hewn steps, was the source of the cry. It was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It was small, no bigger than a human toddler, and covered in a coat of thick, matted brown fur. Its face, however, was startlingly humanoid, with large, dark eyes that swam with tears and fear. Its tiny hands were clenched into fists, and it shivered uncontrollably, its small body trembling from both cold and terror. John froze, his mind racing. It was an infant, a baby Sasquatch. All his life, he'd heard the local legends, the campfire tales of a giant, elusive apeman roaming these very woods. He'd always dismissed them as folklore, the product of overactive imaginations. Yet here was the proof, small and helpless, crying on his doorstep. Every instinct told him to be afraid, to slam the door and pretend he'd seen nothing. But looking into those terrified, intelligent eyes, he couldn't. He saw not a monster, but a lost child. Slowly, cautiously, he knelt down. "Hey there, little fella," he whispered, his voice soft and soothing. "It's okay. You're safe now." The infant flinched but didn't run. John extended a hand, and after a moment's hesitation, a tiny furry hand reached out and grasped his finger. Bringing the creature inside, John wrapped it in a warm, dry blanket. He sat by the fire, holding the shivering bundle, feeling its rapid heartbeat against his chest. He managed to warm some goat's milk from his small herd, and, using a clean rag, coaxed the baby to drink. It drank greedily, its cries subsiding into soft whimpers of contentment. As the storm quieted outside, a different kind of quiet settled in the cabiner's shared, peaceful silence. John named him Moss for the soft green patches that dotted the forest floor. In the days that followed, a new routine emerged. John found himself becoming a father to this strange, wonderful creature. He taught Moss how to forage for berries and edible roots, just as he would have taught a human child about gardening. Moss was a quick learner, intelligent and full of a mischievous curiosity. He would mimic John's actions, trying to help chop wood with a small twig or reed over his shoulder, pointing at the pictures with a furry finger. They explored the woods together, John pointing out the different birds and trees, and Moss responding with a series of complex grunts and chirps that John began to understand. Laughter, a sound long absent from the cabin, now echoed through the woods. John's heart, once walled off by solitude, began to open. He wasn't just a hermit in the woods anymore. He was a guardian, a friend, a father. This tiny, unexpected visitor had filled the vast emptiness in his life that he never even knew existed. But their idyllic life couldn't remain a secret forever. One sunny afternoon, while they were fishing by the stream, a pair of hikers stumbled upon them. The hikers' faces went from surprise to shock, then to a mixture of fear and excitement. They had cameras. They fumbled for them, their hands shaking. John's blood ran cold. He knew what would happen if word got out. Scientists, hunters, media, they would descend on his peaceful world, treating Moss not as a child, but as a specimen, a prize. He scooped Moss into his arms and fled back towards the safety of the cabin, his heart pounding with a new and terrible fear. That night, John couldn't sleep. He looked at Moss, sleeping peacefully by the hearth, completely unaware of the danger. He knew he couldn't keep him here forever. The world was closing in. As if sensing his turmoil, a new sound drifted from the forest, deep, resonant call, unlike anything John had ever heard. It was long and mournful, yet powerful. Moss stirred, his ears perked up, and he answered with a soft, high-pitched cry of his own. The call came again, closer this time. John went to the window and saw them at the edge of the clearing, two massive, shadowy figures, their silhouettes unmistakable against the moonlit trees. They were adults, Moss's parents. They had been searching. All this time, they had been tracking their lost child. A wave of emotions washed over John: relief, sadness, and a profound sense of understanding. He looked from the waiting giants to the small creature in his arms. He knew what he had to do. With a heavy heart, he carried Moss to the door and set him down on the porch. He knelt one last time and looked into those big, dark eyes. "Go on," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Your family is here." Moss looked at him, then towards the forest, a look of confusion on his face. He took a hesitant step, then turned back and wrapped his small arms around John's neck in a tight hug. Tears streamed down John's face as he gently pushed Moss towards the tree line. The small creature toddled across the clearing, and one of the large figures stepped forward, scooping him up in a massive, gentle embrace. The taller Sasquatch turned and looked directly at John. It didn't make a sound, but in its gaze, John felt an unmistakable sense of gratitude, a deep and profound thank you that transcended species. Then, as silently as they had appeared, the family of three vanished back into the shadows of the ancient forest. John stood on his porch for a long time, the silence of the cabin once again feeling vast and empty. But it was a different kind of emptiness now. It wasn't born of loneliness, but of love and loss. His life had been forever changed. The forest was no longer just his sanctuary. It was the home of his little friend, Moss. And sometimes, on quiet nights, John would sit on his porch and listen, hoping to hear that deep, resonant call echo through the trees. Reminder of the incredible secret world he had been privileged enough to touch and the unexpected family he had found and lost deep in the woods. His solitude was no longer a wall, but a window, looking out onto a world far more magical than he had ever imagined. Thanks for sticking with us through this incredible story. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing tales. We'll see you in the next video.